The Battle of Britain is about to begin.
Christ, we got extra up there. Let's follow a range on me, Christ. I'm doing out right on the target right now. I've got a couple of these right in front of me. I'm going out for it. Right, I got him.
Welcome back to the Lead Pursuit Podcast. Tonight, it's just two of us. It's me, the winning face of this podcast, the host, Doug Glover, and our number one tactician, Steve Toth. Steve, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing excellent. The dynamic duo. This is exciting.
Yeah, the podcast has hit rock bottom and continues to dig. We're the only two that are stuck on the podcast tonight. Everyone else was smart. They're either tired, sick, taking care of kids, or getting shit-faced drunk, I think, in some other people's idea. That leaves us. But you know what? This is going to be a good episode. It's going to be more epic than the walk-off in Zoolander. Because, tonight, we're going to talk tactics. Is that right, Steve? You're going to talk about your favorite one, you defensive loser. What are you going to talk about?
No. Safety is key in Blood Red Skies.
He's safe. Risk management. Well, you can defend your defensive tactics, and that's fine. I'm going to aggressively pummel you with aggressive tactics and why it is the finest doctrine in the game. But that's okay. We'll just get started. All right. So I will let you take the first walk-off. Why don't you tell us what defensive tactics says as a card?
Oh, man. Defensive tactics allows you to make a 45-degree turn after being shot at by an enemy. So that
you often get shot at by friends, so would it matter?
It's brutal. It's brutal, too, because, I do. I really get shot at a lot. And defensive tactics I'll tell you what, the reason I play the card is from me and Brett's campaign games. And when you're playing a campaign game, losing the game to Boomchits is not as much of a concern as actually having a pilot shot down.
Oh, so your excuse is you play a different version of the game. That's why you like defensive tactics instead of aggressive.
So that's how it started as a different version. But it has evolved into my own interpretation of what defensive tactics should be used for.
All right. The runway is yours. Tell us how defensive tactics is your ace in the hole as a doctrine.
My ace in the hole of defensive tactics is that it is a card that when you are playing somebody, they're like maneuvering and thinking they're being all clever to line up this shot. And I feel like 90% of the time they forget you even have it. So to me.
So you play a lot of people that suck.
Well, I didn't say they suck. They might not be smart or they might not be intelligent, but they're not.
Okay. Keep going. I see you're cutting the wildebeest out of the herd here is what you're saying in the tournament. You go for the weakest player. Okay, got it.
I do. I actually shouldn't be talking about this. I was actually just talking to Eric Moreno today. So I'm getting a little nervous, but I shouldn't be giving up all my tricks on
your secrets. Right? Exactly.
But, so when you are playing the game and you get in those situations where you're like, oh, if I get one more boom chit, or, you can kind of cash in some of that stuff that you have in storage, right? Like, oh, I need one more boom chit to end this game. Or if I could get a quick swing here, it could kind of turn the tables a little bit. When somebody's coming in for that cheap deflection shot boom chit, that everybody's like, oh, it's such a cheap.
Whoa, did you just take my line? Hold on. Wait, can the entire podcast audience witness this? You called a deflection shot cheap.
No.
Okay, now we can go.
Rewind, roll it back. I said, some people will say that cheap deflection shot boom shit, right? And when you can turn that into
already not working. You're tripping over your shoelaces, bro. You should have turned left when you turned right.
Well, no,
All right,
turn
now
left
keep
when
going.
you turn right. That's the new aggressive tactics card.
Yeah, that's a new aggressive
Turn left
tactics.
when
We'll talk about that in another episode.
when you can get that boom chit back and kind of exchange that as a 1-to-1 boom chit, or even, you have that advantage and you can boom somebody out because you have a boom chit to trade. I feel like it just works awesome in those type of circumstances. And that's the number one reason I take it.
Okay. So I will tell you aggressive tactics. So you play it on your activation. The plane may make a bonus 45-degree turn before moving. And if we're going to talk about Andy's addition to the rules in the FAQ, you add towards the nearest enemy. We'll discuss the pitfalls of nearest enemy and how stupid we both think that is later. But so we're just going to talk about aggressive tactics, 45-degree turn prior to move. So why do I like it? I like it because it does a couple things, and we talked about this before the show. You can be super aggressive and try to kill somebody. You can play it before you shoot. So as you activate, turn 45, take a shot you couldn't have taken. You don't have to be tailing the guy. You just get him in arc now. Take the shot, move, do the rest of your turn. Or you can shoot if you have a shot, whatever, and then play this plus your tight turn, your no stalling. And especially if you're a no stalling player and you're already behind a guy, not necessarily tailing him, maybe they're at a lower advantage level, but this allows you to take aggressive tactics, take that shot, move with another 45 in there with a between 1 to 3 inch move, super mini tight turn. I don't know what you call it.
Yeah, it's
egregiously tight turn.
Really,
but then you take another shot. So it does. So it allows you to change the radius fight. So that's why I like it. But here's the thing, and I'll be honest, I use aggressive tactics defensively because I change the radius of my fight at the start of the turn. If I'm getting chased down, I'll use aggressive tactics with a tight turning aircraft to turn 45 before moving. Then with my tight turn and no stalling, take my 45 anywhere I want. So I can, with aggressive tactics, take a 90-degree turn as a tight turn or no stalling or rapid roll aircraft at the beginning. And that flushes that other guy way out in front of me because I'm going to turn 90 degrees, go my min move, and they're going to just blaze out past me and probably not be in a tailing solution unless they burn advantage or do something else.
Yeah, really, that really puts you in control of the fight, right? Like I remember we played that game probably like 3 years ago now at Siege of Vicksburg, the Hurricanes.
I was going to bring that up when I beat you twice and you only beat me once. Yes.
Yeah. But it really, when you can continually change that radius like that and change that angle that much in a way that the opponent has no way to counter that, right? Because you were two turns.
That series of 3 games, our grudge match there was the perfect description of aggressive versus defensive. Because I was playing aggressive tactics, but I used it defensively because I played poorly at one point and had the wrong aircraft in the wrong fight. And so you were defensive tactics, which was a pain in the ass for me because every time I shot, you would shoot back at me. Thank goodness I was in Hurricanes that were robust. I go, at least you remove a die. But that to me exhibited the exact polar opposites of those two tactics.
And what was funny about it,
trying to survive with defensive,
is that game. There was like a 5 or 6 turn period in that game where it was like the same move just kept happening.
Yeah. And I would go jump in a cloud. You jump in a cloud. We'd switch clouds.
It was like there's nothing you could do, right? So it was like, okay, one of us is going to have to get out of this like kind of cycle that's continually going, or the game's just going to go on for infinity. And there's no way for the person that doesn't have defensive tactics to get out of that in a way that they can be victorious.
If you remember, what had to happen was I finally got the right group of airplanes over there, and I burned advantage and dove in. It meant you were able to shoot that guy that dove in, but they got a ton of shots off between the next 2 turns. And so that's what at least in one of the games tipped the advantage there. So here's where I'll challenge you. Here's where I'll turn around on defensive tactics and say why I don't choose it as my number 1. I think to do it the way you say is the only way to truly play defensive tactics in a competitive boom chit game, is that I'm going to turn deflection shots into head on. And to do that, you also have to be an airplane that can do that. If I do that as a no stalling 0, that's just dumb. Especially if I do it against a wildcat, because I'm literally playing to their advantage. So I would say in my mind, there's only certain airplanes I want to do that with, and when I do, I have to always be turning it into something that I'm gaining a shot advantage out of. I'm getting a shot opportunity I wouldn't have otherwise. Because here's where I've seen people play defensive tactics and lose. Is they will get shot at, they will turn it into a deflection, so they survive, but they still get boom shit farmed.
I was going to say it doesn't help, right? Because what you always complain about the deflection shot is your chance of taking the initial boom shit never changes.
Right.
So that never changes.
That boom shit is a shot downrange. Now the time it could play one way or the other is if it's an ace, with certain skills that can get rid of boom chits. But even then, you would want to take the lower chance so that you would fail it, and then you could play the ace skill and get rid of the boom chit. There's a lot of things in there.
It's a way to even out that boom shit, right? Like if you turn it into a flexion shot, great. You might not get shot down. You might not whatever. It doesn't matter, right? But you're still absorbing that initial boom shit regardless if it's a deflection shot or a head on. So you might as well take a shot going back, right?
Right. Well, exactly. And that's where I think a lot of times people just miss the opportunity with defensive tactics. But most of the time, if you're a tight turn, rapid roll, one of these guys that should be playing defensive tactics, you're getting a 90-degree turn. Odds are you're probably pretty close to putting that guy.
Yeah. The other thing that does too, turning it into a head-on shot, right? And this is like another thing. If you turn it into a deflection shot, you're not attacking that plane the next turn, right?
Right.
If you turn that into a head-on shot and survive, right? So now you're pointing head on. There's a real legitimate chance if that plane hasn't activated yet, you could take another head-on shot to open up the turn and then do the typical fly pass, burn advantage, turn 180 and tail them and have a legitimate chance to shoot that plane down, right?
Right.
So it's that's the other portion of it where when you turn
I
back
laugh about this because this is and this is why I say you have to take the head-on shot, because there is what do I say? It's a waterfall of bad things that happen when you take head-on shots. And so if the attacking aircraft thinks they're shooting deflection, you turn it into a head-on. Okay, now you've tripped the first one, which is they could lose advantage. They could lose a level of advantage because they're going to only roll agility and pilot skill. So they could drop to a level below you. You might defend against that shot. So now you're above them. So just like you say, they've taken what they thought was an easy boom chit farming deflection. Whether they get the boom chit or not, who cares? In the shot back, you knocked them down, you defended, and now you're literally at that point where you're like, I'm going to shoot you in the face once, and then I'm going to decide if I have the advantage to burn, flip around, and pop up behind you.
Yeah, I mean, being head on at the end of shooting, right? Being head on with another plane in Blood Red Skies is like a hugely advantageous position, right?
Yes.
Because it opens up so many things. Fly past and outmaneuver another plane, and then they can't, you turn the angle right, so they can't spin around and get back on. Like you could fly past them, park right behind them. So if they want to spin around, they overshoot you. Like there's so much.
And I was going to bring up that point there, that where I've seen this really go bad for people when defensive tactics is played against them and it is turned into a head-on shot is because they close in to use heavy hitter or buzzsaw or something else where they want to get really close. Well, the problem is then you have literally opened up the fact that I'm going to turn it into a head-on. If the worst possible things happen and we flip advantage levels, basically, now I am at a position where I can fly right beyond you. So if you're going to engage them with defensive tactics, don't give them that opportunity to fly behind you.
Yeah.
Get to a shooting solution. Use your minimum movement or whatever you need to do to get there. But make sure you have some range so that guy has to overshoot you if he's gonna go behind you.
It's funny. Like I know this isn't like a full on tactics discussion, right?
Oh, it's a full on tactics discussion.
What you just said right there. From watching the games on the streaming at Adepticon, like playing in the furball, watching the demo games, just like absorbing a lot of games being played over the last several years. The biggest mistake that people make
is taking Spitfires.
No. Bar none. Seriously, bar none is when you're trying to attack a plane. All you have to do is get to 6 inches. There is no reason for you to move to 2.5 inches away. Like moving that full in as close as you can before shooting is the single biggest mistake that I think people make.
I will actually agree with you on that. And there is obviously aircraft that have, buzzsaw, heavy hitter. There are aircraft that have legitimate reasons to get there. My belief is get there if you're going to kill the guy.
Exactly.
If you're just taking a low probability of kill of shoot down, deflection shot, or it's going to possibly get turned into a head on, that's not where you play a heavy hitter airplane in close, because they will turn it on you. And once again, the time you don't want it to happen, the dice are going to go cold on you and hot on them. And then they're going to flip around behind you. And you'll be like, how did I go from a position where I was in this dude's chili at 1.5 inches, or base to base contact, which also comes up to my point about base to base contact. Don't fly in close if you don't have to, because if heavy hitter's 3 inches, make sure you leave yourself some room to do a min move and barely get past the guy, and not do your min move and overshoot to a point where they turn around you. So
yeah, that's a huge mistake, right? Because it just can. And then all of a sudden, like, even if nothing happens, you're like, oh, fuck, now I'm at the beginning of my turn and I can't even move my minimum move anymore. I have to fly past this fucking guy.
You move right past the guy. And so I laugh and I'm like, okay, even with some of the faster airplanes, sure, now I'll do my min, if I'm at 3 inches shooting this guy, okay, and I'll do my min move of 4, maybe 4.5, and move just beyond him and turn back into him. So no matter what he does, he's not going to tail me. He's not going to fly past. He's going to have to fly past me again. It's that the art of understanding when to move your full move and when to move a min move and the spatial awareness. But anyway, I'm not going to let you get off the hook with defensive tactics. I'm going to tell you still why it sucks.
Okay.
So here's why, because to me, aggressive tactics, you don't have to wait on the enemy. Aggressive tactics, you get the bonus on your terms. Now, like you said, that doesn't do you any good when you're not your activation you're getting shot at. So I agree with you there, but I don't like to give the initiative to the enemy for my doctrine. I like to pick and choose when I'm using my doctrine. And that's a lot of my play style. When I have played aces with very defensive ace traits, when I've played defensive tactics, I usually don't do well because I don't have the right people in the right place, or the scenario doesn't, the opportunity when I'm being shot at doesn't fit when I need to use that card. So I want to choose time of my place, time of my choosing when I get that bonus turn. And that is the other reason why I don't like Andy's FAQ, because there are so many situations where the nearest enemy is not the guy I'm trying to kill. And we'll really do a deep dive of this in the next episode or 2 episodes down, depending on timing here. But there's a lot of opportunities where the guy who's closest to me isn't the guy I'm about to try to kill.
Not even that he's not the guy you're about to kill. That guy's not even a factor in the fight. Like, he's not even on your brain. He's not even relevant in the fight, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like, if you're playing, shit, I forget what the scenario is now. It's the recon scenario. Okay, so if the closest enemy is the fucking Stork recon plane, you got to turn towards that motherfucker. Like, doesn't make any sense. It's weird. It's weird.
And it could be the same thing with priority mission. It could be that way with the Balmer. Yeah. What if I really don't want to shoot the Balmer this turn, but I just passed him, but I need to shoot that escort so I can tail the Balmer? There's
what is it closest enemy aircraft? Or does it
just says nearest enemy, just towards the nearest enemy.
A ground target, you got to turn towards the ship. Is that the nearest enemy?
Like, if would you just save that for another episode?
I don't know. I'm asking that. Just
I agree.
I would agree with you, though. Being able to do it when you want to do it is a big advantage to it. That is a big advantage.
Wait a minute. Have we just been agreeing with each other this episode? Did we fail our mandate to yell at each other and say how much we sucked?
Good. We can channel our hate.
These are not terrible doctrines. And as much as I joke and call the tight turn, rapid roll, no stalling aircraft, cheater aircraft, you just have to understand that you are changing the physics of the game. So pick when you want to change it. Yeah. And I think we both agree, if you want to take opportunities where you're getting shot at and turn them into opportunities for you to do boom chits, which is what causes you to win the game, then defensive tactics is your game.
I will say this. There were several people in this discussion of aggressive tactics.
Oh, geez.
That several times were like, if you don't take aggressive tactics, you're an idiot. Defensive tactics is useless. This is, if you have a tight turn airplane, you have to take aggressive tactics. Totally false. I would say if you have a tight turn airplane, you're already cheating enough. You don't even have to take aggressive tactics. Like you could take pretty much.
I would agree, you cheaters.
You could take any doctrine and you still have an advantage over somebody who doesn't have tight turn, right?
Yeah. So I laugh because once again, people that say always or never, unless it's like never land without your gear up. Although I can think of sometimes I might want to land with my gear up. There's always a caveat to everything. So when you say always or never, usually you haven't thought it through and you're being a fanboy about something. Hey, there's the thing in the F-18 of there's times you want to land with your gear up because you only have one gear out of 3 that comes down. So you know what? I'm putting all of them up and landing on my tanks.
Yeah,
so don't say never lind without putting your gear down.
I really enjoyed that discussion because in my head, I had the library of games in my head of knowing that I beat quite a few of those people using defensive tactics. So I was just kind of like, oh, okay.
And that's one of the funniest things. You know, I think a couple of us talked about it after the tournament at Adepticon, that there's people that they get in and they find their first successful aircraft doctrine trait mix and maybe throw an ace in there. And they're like, yes, I've figured the game out. And then they go out there and they got beat by someone who's playing a great dive, robust airplane. Dude. And you're like, how did that happen? Well,
there's no meta.
Really
there's no meta.
There's not.
There's really isn't. And that's what makes me, that's the biggest thing that makes me upset when stuff starts going in the FAQ and the errata to kind of like, we want to stop this meta that's happening, right? Because there isn't one.
You're like, what meta? There's none.
Yeah, there isn't one. It's a perceived thing, right? And then it's like we're changing stuff that doesn't need to be changed at all because this doesn't even exist. We've seen people win with ace heavy lists. We've seen people win with skill 2 lists. We see people win with tight turn. We see people win with great dive. We see people win with, all gamuts of planes. For me to say that like this is what you need to do, I can't find a thing. I know there's things
I
like
can say what you need to do. You need to get good at the game. You need to learn the rules. You need to play.
Good.
You need to not suck. Yeah.
That's it.
Study harder. Suck less.
Yeah, that's it. Stop sucking.
Stop sucking. Yeah. And I say that I know people get frustrated. I'll use myself as an example. It was like this last couple of weeks of playing AI where I have lost every fucking game I played. And as Chris and I are driving back, I'm like, fuck it, I'm done with AI. I have lost every single game since the start of the year. Oh, wait, sorry, except one. I played Chris once and beat him. So every other game since the start of the year, I have lost. But the point is I lost them because I made shitty decisions. Not because the other player had some magical combo. I literally made shitty decisions,
and
I
that's
should have
what I
not made those
say.
shitty decisions.
I'll say that about Blood Red Skies every single time. I have never lost a game of Blood Red Skies where I'm like, oh, that's fucking, that list was way better, or it's like, no, man, I fucked up on that turn. Or like, oh man, if I would have hit that dice roll, totally different game. But like, you can't control the luck of the game, right?
You can't. And there, you have to. I tell people you have to account for this in your planning. That if the dice have to be hot for you to win, don't use that list.
It's not a good plan.
It's not a good plan.
Man, it might have been. It was several years ago now. Me and Brett. It might have actually been before the first gathering of Eagles. Me and Brett were kind of like at his place, kind of like just going crazy, just doing different lists, right? And I was like, oh, I'm going to take this 190, I think it was A's with rockets and this. And on my first turn, I'm just going to like get as close as I can, shoot rockets, heavy hitter, buzzsaw, this ace, that ace. And I freaking rolled all those dice, didn't get a single boom shit. And it was like, game over. He just fucking destroyed me like the next turn.
And I tell people that's the one fault of rockets. I love rockets as an equipment card, but you're betting that you're going to get something out of it because you're spending a significant amount of points and you're laden and you're putting yourself at a disadvantage to have double firepower. So you better fucking make it worth it.
So I'm going to say this, and this is going to be my final determination on aggressive tactics, defensive tactics.
All right.
Old regular aggressive tactics, probably a better card than defensive tactics.
What?
New worded aggressive tactics freaking throw it away. It's freaking, it's useless. Defensive
I
tactics all
have
day.
to play the new wording more. So I just do to really get a feel, because I haven't seen enough scenarios where it doesn't make sense. I know you saw, it wasn't aggressive tactics in the new wording, but you saw Mike Lewis and I, when we were playing some games at Twisted Lords, there were a couple things we got to, we're like, hey, this doesn't make sense in the rules. What do we do? And there's always going to be things like that in any game. My fear is I haven't played the new aggressive tactics enough to go, shit, it isn't as useful to me. In my mind, I'm like, the situations I see, it's going to be fucking great.
I'm kind of wondering.
Those don't match the real game.
I'm kind of wondering in my brain, if you take aggressive tactics now, if I could just totally fuck with you and keep a plane close enough to you all the time to just make you have to turn a certain direction.
Exactly.
Like, I'm just going to park this plane right next to you and you have to turn that way. You've
created, there's now an exploit. It's like the equivalent of the jet hold down. You now have an airplane that's doing nothing other than forcing me to turn directly towards you.
I wonder if you could actually be smart enough to, like, if you could be savvy enough with one plane to just be like, oh, I'm going to keep this here. So if Doug wants to use aggressive tactics, he needs to turn right every fucking time. But you started it with Zoo. It's like the Zoolander strategy. You just said it.
I think we know some players that are going to try that now. Oh man. Well, Steve, thanks for taking the time to bullshit a little bit and to have fun talking about the tactics. Because once again, and we don't say it enough, there are so many good doctrines in the game, so many good combos. If you find one that isn't working for you, try something else. Be creative and go out there and choose an airplane doctrine and trait combo that fits your style of playing. Anyway, so with that, do you have anything you want to leave us with before we get off this damn episode?
Well, Historicon's coming up, right? So that's pretty awesome.
Historicon. I got to plan for that.
Yeah, that'll be fun. We're going to be doing some fun shit too, right?
We are. And I was going to say, people who want to see Blood Red Skies Vietnam, you asked for it. Trevor painted the miniatures. We'll play it at Historicon.
Oh, yeah.
So F-100s escorting F-105s into North Vietnam, getting bounced by MiG-17s.
It's going to be fun.
It will be fun. Absolutely.
Achtung Panzer demo, right? We're going to do a 15 millimeter Achtung Panzer demo.
Okay. Is that what we settled on?
Yeah, because Roger's actually going to be there for it, right? So he's traveling over. He's going to bring 15 millimeter tanks off, some good terrain to bring. And then Memorial Day weekend, if you are in the D.C. area, Brookville, Maryland, Union Con. Put on by the Union Gang Gaming Group. Had a couple of them on the podcast. The Missile Threat, they play Missile Threat. There's going to be, I'll actually be there doing a Blood Red Skies game, and there's all kinds of other Cold War games, fantasy games. It's a small con, first year they're doing it, but it's in Brookville, Maryland. If you want to check it out, you just search Union Con, one word, on Facebook, and you'll get to the event page. And if you're in the area, 1 day event, head on down. It's gonna be a really fun time. Bunch of cool guys. Grognard, it's really kind of the group. It's a Grognard free zone, I would say. So if you're like into it,
excellent. The kind of place I like to hang out.
Yeah, come on down.
No hex encounter games. Nobody arguing about rivets and does that simulate the proper 76 long shell? Yeah, none of that.
Nope, it doesn't. Nope.
Awesome. Grognard free zone.
You know, speaking of Grognards, though, like we just touched on Achtung Panzer, right?
Yeah.
For everybody who thinks ever on the Ready Room that people are into their airplanes, okay, spend 10 minutes with tank nerds.
Oh God, they're worse. They're worse.
Insanity, pure insanity.
It's a different level of grognardism. I'm not sure. Even me as an old squad leader, hex encounter guy, I don't think I can compete. So,
dude, I'm actually kind of wondering, like, I don't know, tank nerds or Gettysburg aficionados. Like, I'm actually still balancing. I'm not sure.
Yeah, no, I'm still going to vote for the Gettysburg players being the bigger grog. So yes, fair that's enough. You, Don, we're talking about.
Fair enough. All right, but yeah, if you're there, Memorial Day weekend, Union Con on Facebook, check it out. Should be a fun time.
Absolutely. With that, I'm going to say we cannot save you hundreds in your car insurance, but we can help you not become a grognard.
My joke with multi-engine rules is always like, a game needs a baseline of complexity to be counted as a war game. So Blood Red Skies is so easy that multi-engine rules is so fucking complex that now it can be counted as a war game. It's like,
Exactly.
nobody
We would call this a Euro game.
A
It
toy.
is not. Yeah, exactly. It's not complex enough to be a war game. Okay, let's add multi-engine in there. Okay, now the Grognards
multi-engine.
are
Okay,
happy.
nobody fucking understands this, so now it's a war game. Perfect.
Yeah, now it's a war game. There we go. We're set. Perfect. Oh, fuck me.